On August 14th, 2013, TruthToTell and SPNN traveled to the White Earth Anishinaabe Reservation in Mahnomen, Minnesota, to host a forum on a proposed new White Earth Constitution. After the regular hours program was finished, we continued to record the questions and answers from the audience to the panelists. The following is the second hour of this important debate.
Let's keep going. We can go right back into it now. And I hope that gentleman is here. Is he? I wanted him to get a chance to. Let's start off with. Tell us, Terry Janice, is anything you've heard tonight so far inaccurate?
You know, there's valid positions in every one of these perspectives. Part of the conversation about enrollment and blood quantum and descendancy is a decision that the people of this nation have to make for themselves. And the idea of who they are, defining themselves, for me, as an attorney, as an Oglala Lakota, the bottom line is that we as a people have the right and responsibility to define ourselves, who we are and who we will be. And that's what we're talking about, and that's the value and positive benefit of this. The other component, the most kind of strident sort of ideas and voices came about whether MCT is the governing body and the governing entity as a tribe, and whether White Earth as a community, as a government, has the right to form its own government and decide on its own what sort of constitution and governmental system it should have. And that is both a legal and personal issue. The legal issue, from a perspective of whether White Earth is a federally recognized tribe, is pretty clear. I mean, it's pretty clear that White Earth is a federally recognized tribe and it has the right to decide its own form of government. It may have to break away from MCT in order to do that, and that may have its own issues and ramifications. But the other aspect of that is really a part of the broader conversation of who you are as a people. Do you identify as Anishinaabe in its broader sense, in that kind of national identity? And what does that mean, and what direction does that take you? Do you identify as MCT, as Ojibwe or Anishinaabe people in Minnesota? And what direction does that take you? And in thinking about this decision about White Earth forming its own government, what does that do if you moved in that direction? Does it move you further away from that broader Anishinaabe nation? Does it move you away from that broader MCT nation? Or does it have more of a practical consequence, a practical effect, where there's the reality that the need of this community requires a better form of government, a better constitution that works for this local community, and that broader frame of reference can operate in certain circumstances, but it also, even if it's established, needs a local governance that works for the local community. All of those are a part of the consideration, and no, I wouldn't say any one of these things are definitively wrong.
Okay, so essentially these are perceptions of the ramifications of voting in favor or not voting in favor of this Constitution at any given time from what we've been hearing.
Yeah.
Okay. In other words, here's my question. For instance, Sharon raised the issue of her first cousins down in Tennessee. Did you say and whether or not they could be considered Anishinaabe, even though they're her first cousins, and they haven't lived up here or practiced the traditions or the ways of the Anishinaabe.
Nothing about it. Nothing about it.
And they know nothing about it. So but does that have anything?
Well, even in the forefront, it happens right here,
Yeah, and
right
sadly,
at home.
a lot of our people here, our kids don't know who they are.
Right.
A lot. Hold on. Let's keep that going back even further. You know, I mean, it's a situation. I mean, the semantics and the broader picture of this whole thing. It's so broad on how this could have been handled and prepared back in the beginning of constitutional reform, 1997. Okay, 1997. We're talking 10 years ago. That was 18. Kids that are 18 years old right now, we're eligible voters right now, we're 8 years old, yet they've gone through the school systems on this reservation and outside this reservation, yet they have no idea what MCT is. They have no idea that White Earth is part of MCT. They have no idea about our history. That you ask them, how come it's 140-some powwow? They have no idea, because it's a celebration of the Treaty of 1867. There could have been a lot more preparation in educating what could be projected voters on our reservation by educating in our system about us.
What about Irma's position, Michael, that even your own children here on the reservation know almost as little as the people living in Memphis, Tennessee?
I'll be blunt, because I think it's important that we just cut right to it. It's because our traditional ways and our ceremonial ways and our ways as a people, 9 times out of 10, are a novelty. It is not a primary. It is not a primary movement here on this reservation, or pretty much anywhere, that we confront and we approach Anishinaabe issues with Anishinaabe ways. That should be the very first and foremost. Those of us that live in the traditional community, we took this document with tobacco. When we heard this form was starting, we went with tobacco. We took this document to other elders on other reservations because of the Ojibwe words that were used to describe it, which then the preamble in Ojibwe is very different than the English translation.
Really?
Yes.
And perhaps Terry Janice can
Oh, no.
That's never going to happen.
We just got him to say Shinabe right.
Maybe in 25 years.
Michael, you really are quite effusive, and it's wonderful, but we want to get other questions and stuff in. So we had a follow-up question from this young man.
Yeah, we keep hearing, Irma, that we're going to break away from the IRA and all this and that, but yet this new Constitution, it reeks of IRA all the way through it. And before, there's restrictions on the elected people, and the new Constitution, it lifts all those restrictions. It put restrictions on the people. There's more burden, especially the removal process. Right now, it's 20%, and we've got 2 petitions in there for removal of certain individuals, yet they're not being followed. Yet, how's by going to a new one going to change anything when it's the very same setup? IRA Constitution. There is no difference. It's Indian Reorganization Act. That's how the Constitution was originally brought around. But yet, this new Constitution is the same thing. All it does is strengthen the people in power's positions, where it'll be impossible to remove anybody. And that's just one of the bad points.
Niijii indigenous maingan nindo dem. You know, there's a lot of talk about, the old Constitution, how bad it was, how obsolete, and all this and that. Nobody seems to be taking a look at it, because that's what government is running under right now. It should be. This effort here shouldn't have went as far as it has right now, because in essence, these leaders, and I can say this about the whole Minnesota Chippewa Tribe, have allowed things to happen here that shouldn't be happening without the people's consent. That's very important here. We have a document, and I know Mr. Janice, and I appreciate his fragile little situation here and being the presenter and the teacher and blah, blah, blah. However, if we take a good look at when he laid out Irma's Constitution, and the revised Constitution of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe, and he laid that out. He put certain things, oh, we got this, we got that, and so forth. And then under the revised Constitution, he has none, 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 none. Saying, oh, how ridiculous. No. What that is those rights are reserved to the people. Those are the ones who own those rights. We have not taken that and turned it over to you, Irma, or your so-called tribal council. Remember, you are an RBC, a Reservation Business Committee. That has not been bestowed upon you by the people.
We've had 2 comments, and I want to give you a chance to. Can we give you a chance to respond to those?
Let's address this issue a little bit about whether or not the RBCs actually have the authority to pursue a sort of a home rule constitution on its own. Where's the authority for that?
The authority is in the federally recognized status of the White Earth people, and you know the government's name for us is Reservation Business Committee. Why cooperate in your own oppression?
Yeah.
No, and I want to answer. I also want. Yeah. I want to answer also. We had a delegation process. Everyone was invited who was 18 years and older, enrolled, had an opportunity to be a delegate. How many people are here tonight? This place, this event center that holds 2,000 people should be full. So I say, you know, participate. Marvin and Raymond and they were all at every time we convened, and we're allowed to be delegates if they so chose. But you know, I think I facilitated that convention because that was my mandate to the people who voted for me. I was not a delegate. The document that has been drafted is to be voted on. You can vote yes and you can vote no.
Can I?
All right.
Hold on. Can I add to that?
Let Michael, if we can, for just a second.
We have comments on the other side over here, Andy.
Yeah. My name is Irene Wade Benjamin, and I'm enrolled in Mille Lacs, but I'm a federally recognized Indian in the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe. I was born here in White Earth, and I was raised over there in Jack Pine for my first few years. And so I have roots here in White Earth. But I'd like to make a statement, if everybody would, kind of bear with me. It won't take long. And I had to write it down because when you get to be about 66 years old, you sometimes start wandering. Today I would like to begin with a brief overview of how and/or why the federal government adopted the current Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Constitution. The Constitution replaced the Dawes Act, which basically brought the loss of land and to some extent our culture and traditions to the Anishinaabe. It was the beginning of the division of the great nation of Anishinaabe. Furthermore, it gave the Secretary of the Interior at that time the power to define the Anishinaabe as Indians and tribes. We are not Indians, we are Anishinaabe. With that said, let's move on to the Constitution itself. Before we begin, how many tribal members in this audience are familiar with and understand the Constitution, the proposed one? I see one hand. 3 hands. Okay. And how many were asked for their input and/or opinion on this newly proposed Constitution? I see 4 hands. First and foremost, we have equal rights, equal protection, and equal opportunities to participate in the economic resources and activities of the tribe. You also have the right to petition for action of redress or grievances. You can find that in Article 13 of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe Constitution. What is the purpose and the function of the present Constitution, the MCT? The purpose and function is to promote the general welfare of the members of the tribe, to maintain justice for its members.
And you don't think this is true of the new?
No. White Earth received $307,000 to have this proposed constitution to be drawn up. By whom, I ask? Who played a role in putting together this document? Was it you, the tribal members? If the answer is no, or very little input from tribal members, then where is the justice in that? Do you not have the right, as stated in the MCT Constitution, to participate in activities of your governing bodies? I see that Irma's leaving. How is this proposed constitution going to work with the existing constitution? Does anybody know that? How is the White Earth proposed constitution going to, work with our present MCT constitution? There are many questions. Let me finish first, and then they can answer. There are many questions that need.
And we do have other comments.
There are many questions that need to be asked, and many answers that need to be given before anyone can be expected to vote on this issue. I know they have a constitution drawn up in Mille Lacs also. It is sitting idly by. For what reason, I don't know. My question would be this: why are we allowing our tribe, our people, to be divided once again by yet another constitution? Are we all just going to fall by the wayside and let this happen? The wording in the present MCT Constitution is so slippery that it's hard to determine if all tribal members vote on this newly proposed constitution or not. The words tribe, Indians, and band members can be used very loosely in that MCT Constitution.
Can we please give someone else an opportunity to ask a question?
In ending, yep, I just had this. All right. In ending, I would like to say,
wrap it up. Yep.
In ending, I would like to say that I am not in agreement with said proposed constitution, neither here or in Mille Lacs, or any reservation for that matter. We must have our questions answered. We must have a say in such serious matters that govern us. We must, once and for all, stand up for generations to come.
Thank you. Okay, let's get some response. Irma, would you like to respond, please?
To that comment?
I can't. I will respond but I'd like to have some of our other panelists have an opportunity.
I'd be happy to hear from them, because one of the things that I think is coming up here is the question of unification versus what we say federalism, as it were, where there are individual governing bodies versus a central governing body, the MCT in this case. Is that not correct? Isn't that's what it's sounding like?
That's definitely one way of framing it. I think there's, and we've said this 3 or 4 times, several times, right? There's a broad Anishinaabe kind of essence or idea of all Anishinaabe being one people.
But it goes beyond the MCT too, doesn't it?
Right. There's also the very specific MCT governing structure with a specific constitution.
Right.
That is the current governing structure.
And there are other Anishinaabe tribes.
Yeah, I already said that.
No, there is not. There's one
tribe. Or bands. I should say bands.
As a whole, right?
Yes, right.
And then there's MCT, and then there's the reservations, right? And each of the reservations has a specific governing structure. And part of the question is, which is really to the heart of this conversation, is how much does that local reservation need a governing structure that works for that local community?
Yes.
And how much can you develop that, and how does that affect MCT as a governing structure? And does it result in moving away from a unified MCT structure or even a broader Anishinaabe nation. And that's a part of the conversation. How do you provide a governance structure at the local level that works for the local level? And what is the definition of nationality, tribalism at the MCT level and at the Anishinaabe level? And that I think there's a number of opinions in that. I don't think there's a lot of clarity, to be honest.
And the
Wait,
other,
let me say it. I don't think there's a lot of clarity, to be honest, of how to actually accomplish any one of those levels. And I think this constitution, this proposed constitution, goes quite a ways to proposing an idea of organizing at the local level. There's not a lot of clarity about how you can reform MCT, because there have been efforts to do that, and it hasn't gotten anywhere, to be honest, right? There's some ideas about organizing at the broader Anishinaabe nation level, but I haven't seen a lot of strategy on organizing that effectively.
Leadership would allow and work with the people, we could resolve.
there does seem to be does seem to be that layer
There's a very real interest.
of the process involved
There's
here.
a very real interest.
All
Let's
right,
take some more
one moment,
audience
right here.
comments.
Excuse me. I finally got this thing. Now my arm is too sore. There's several different things that have been brought up. One is being the Anishinaabe people. We will always be the Anishinaabe people. It's been the government that has split us into not bands, we're reservations. White Earth Reservation, Leech Lake Reservation, Mille Lacs Reservation. We're not bands. Even if you're talking about bands, it's Pillager Band, it's Mississippi Band, it's Pemina Band, it's Superior Band, it's Red Lake Band. But even bands are a government source. We are clans and we're Anishinaabe. That's all we'll ever be. We are not bands, we're not reservations. If you want to distinguish yourself that way, go right ahead. The way I see this new proposed constitution is we will be under the umbrella of the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe. It's going to be there. For us to break away from it, we would have to be re-recognized by the United States government as a separate tribe. The way I see this proposed constitution, it is very much like the way our government is now for the United States. We have our federal government, we have our state government. We're looking at the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe as being the federal government. We're looking at this proposed constitution as being White Earth as being a state constitution, which is feasible. We can still have our rules for White Earth and still be under the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe. We want to make different amendments to the Minnesota Chippewa Tribe. We can do that as a people. If we want to come up with a constitution for White Earth where we have our own rights, our own laws, we can do that with a proposed constitution. Maybe not this one. There are lots of things in this constitution that I disagree with, and I'm sure there's a lot of people here that disagree with them. My main one is there is no provision in this for an interim government. If we pass this come this fall, our current government is no longer a seated government. We have no government. There is nothing in here for an interim government. There is nobody there, nobody to run White Earth. That is what people should be looking at this, not fighting between ourselves. Not saying, oh, Irma, you're doing this. Oh, you can't do this. Oh, I can't do that. We can't be fighting among ourselves.
Can we get a response?
Please, can we get some responses?
Gerald, do you have a response to that about the interim question?
How about the interim government?
The issue? Irma, can you answer that?
We've discussed the interim transition process. Should the proposed constitution pass? And the government we have would be the interim government until a transition takes place.
Is this written anywhere?
Pardon me?
Is this written, this plan?
No,
is this
it's
written
not.
anywhere?
Generally, those things aren't written
No.
into constitution.
No,
Well,
What the
not in the
Constitution is
Constitution,
it's a
but-
framework. It's
Yeah.
principles, it's a framework, it's a living document it can be changed. It's, that's the problem with the Indian Reorganization Act Constitution we have. That was passed in 1936. No, it was a time of assimilation was the policy. Termination was the policy. Now, we look at through the Bush Foundation, and they're working with South Dakota tribes, North Dakota tribes, Minnesota tribes. Now, the distilling issue for self-determination, self-governance, and progress is reforming these antiquated constitutions. That's it. And so, we have a tribal council right now, and that will be the transition.
I'd like to know from KKWE that if we just keep going for a little while, will it stay on the air, or are you going to sign off? You stay on the air till we give you the cue that we're done. So that gives a lot of people an opportunity to speak. And if you have something to say, and we're going to get new voices, voices on this as much as we can, and because we don't really want any of you, to be left out simply because you're a little reticent. You don't want to speak up too much, but we'd like to speak up. All right? Give it a shot. How's that?
We have someone in the back.
I see someone in the back here. Come on.
I am Ogama Ananguk, and I'm Anishinaabe Ikwe. There's many things that I don't agree with this Constitution. I sat as a delegate. We tried to voice our opinion. We were not considered. A lot of issues came up, especially about how to define ourselves as Anishinaabe. We proposed that there are ways that our elder people could come up with ways. Now, even in this Constitution proposed, there's we have an elder council, by the way, that is functioning, has been functioning for almost 20 years. We're not even being recognized in this, according to this Constitution. There would be a new one formed. And, it's also for any amendments to occur, according to this Constitution, it would take a 2/3 vote. Do you know what that means? That, again, like you said, Sharon, all these people that are living in Pennsylvania, in Oakland, wherever, they have a vote in this. And it takes 2/3. How in the hell the people living here on the reservation, going to be able to amend something that's so important to us? We live here, and I agree with Sharon. We know who we are. We know how to define who we are. And yes, a lot of our people do not know their culture. They do not have a name. We need to teach that, and we're finding ways to do that. It's slow, but we'll get there. But this Constitution, I was opposed at the delegate convention, and I remain opposed. We can find ways to write a Constitution that it will serve the people of the reservation, not individuals. A lot of people aren't here because they're fearful of losing their jobs if they voice an opinion. That has been told to them, and we got to take back that right. We have a right to say what we need to.
I'd like to.
That's a
I'd like,
pretty serious-
you know,
that's a pretty serious
before
indictment.
you quit here, I'd like Gerald Visner to please speak to some of these issues.
I would too, personally, being that I live here, Gerald. You know, I want to know how your process was while you were writing this and those kinds of things. I really do want to know what was going through your mind and what's going through your mind now as we're critiquing your authorship. Because it's not every day that somebody wakes up and says, I want to write a constitution.
Well, he didn't just do that either. He took all the data from all the things that he had gotten, and he put them into words and laid it out as a proposed constitution. Is that right?
Thank you. Yeah.
All right, now, but you're here in support of the Constitution. Why do you support this Constitution?
Well, you think I would vote against it, having participated in 4 conventions and as an active delegate, and then taking the advice?
I don't know, Gerald. I just don't know.
Well,
That's what we're asking.
But that's not the question. That's not the question. The question is why. Not if, or why are you supporting it?
I still would rather have some people over here who want to speak because I've participated for 4 conventions and was active as a delegate, and there are a lot of people here who would rather speak.
And we're curious on why you support it. I want to know. I really want to know. I'm looking for convincing. I want to be sold. I need to be sold because I am not right now. I am not sold on this Constitution's entirety. There are parts that I like. I will admit.
What part do you like?
I like the separation of powers. I like the separation
And
of
this
powers.
is a totally new aspect
It's a
of,
new
of the government.
aspect. It really
governance.
is.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah,
because
there are
for a
3
number of
branches.
Yeah.
We should tell everybody.
But
there
I
are
do
3
want to
branches.
know. I need to, because it's hard. It's
Yeah?
hard to find somebody that's for this Constitution. It is very hard to find somebody that will speak for it.
On the reservation or here?
Yes.
I want to say a word.
Dr. Visner.
Before you leave tonight, please take the 4-page Wilder study results and see where this tribal nation is going to be in 100 years. It will not exist. The person,
Please let Dr. Visner speak.
Yes, the Wilder study was headed up by a state demographer who's been working within the state and working with enrollment and membership, citizenship projections all over the world for the past 35 years. No, that's the data, that's the facts.
I have a question for you,
yes.
Irma, within that. So you did this study, and you determined, that the future, basically, what you said something like 2000 is what you'd see in how many years based on this study?
85 years.
And so, how did you get from the point of, because I assume you were at these delegation meetings, how did you get from the point of realizing this fact from the research to determining that the best way to go about fixing that problem was to just do lineage as opposed to some other way of going about it?
The Minnesota Chippewa Tribe took on this project because they want to make.
Well, not you specifically,
no,
but
the Minnesota
the
Chippewa
overall.
Tribe took on this research project, and.
So do they endorse this then?
Pardon me?
Do they endorse this Constitution?
Oh, they don't have to endorse it.
That's not the question, though. That's not the question.
Were any other options considered besides the one that is currently in the ratified version of the Constitution? When we talk about ways of establishing who can have membership, were there other options on the table besides the one that is in the current version?
There are 4 options, I believe, on the in the research. There are 4 options: maintaining the 1/4 blood quantum, adding other Chippewa blood, adding other Indian blood. I think those are the 3. But the decline is in 85 years is 78%.
You mean you're talking about
statistic.
those who would no longer qualify under the 25% quantum, right?
Here's the thing. That statistic and that study, you know, I will speak to that. That the Wilder is very reputable with their studies and with their statistics. However, the statistic and the study is done provided that every enrolled member at this point marries and has children outside of the tribe. That's what the study states.
That everyone does.
So how I'm offended that this statistic is assuming that my child will marry and have children outside of our nation, of Ojibwe people. I'm offended.
Yeah, well,
So,
some people
I mean,
can be.
that's beside the fact. I think we've addressed this enough, the descendancy issue. We don't like it. But I think we need to go more. I need to be sold. I'm not being sold on this Constitution by anybody. I'm being stronger and stronger convinced
Let me ask one question of the whole thing. What are the other options right now other than the current proposed Constitution? Like, can the wording be amended anymore? Or could you throw this out and start over again? What could you do?
Taking every single enrolled member that knows our language, knows our ways, lives our way as Anishinaabe people, damn it, you're a full blood. We have that right.
Full blood?
Yes,
Good thing I
we
moved
have
my
that
phone.
right.
That would be a tough call, man.
We are who we are. We determine who we are. We can get up and we can name who we are. We have that right.
Yes.
Does any white person have a tag like a meat cow? No, we do. You?
Meat cow?
Yeah, exactly. You know the Asian beef where they take the little tears with their ears with the little tape that have a number to say how good they are? Do you have a number?
I have no number.
My enrollment number is my tag. That makes me a lot better than a regular white person that doesn't have a tag, that isn't owed from the federal government.
Can I take an attempt on bringing this around? Okay, those that know me know that I like to speak in the form of metaphors. What we're looking at here is right now, the way that I want to think about it is the way that I think about it right now. Metaphorically speaking, my home, my house, my wife and my children, my niece and my father-in-law are the White Earth Reservation. My mother and father and her mother and father are the MCT. Our parents raised us in a certain manner, but they told us, as you go out into your home, you have the right to raise your child in the manner that you choose. I have the power on how my child grows.
Yes,
and
but
I
do you
have
have
chosen. Let me finish because I want to bring this around. I want to bring this around because it's getting too darn blah, 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 blah.
Well, I agree, but I have a...
And what I want to say is that the fact of the matter is, when this is over and done, when everything is over and done, we are still who we are. Whether there's descendants here or not, I'm still going to pound drum. I'm still going to speak our language. You know, so the other thing is that right now we're screaming, power is in the people, power is in the people. We want the power back. We have the power. We have the power come November, if it is proposed again. Proposed date is November 19th, when we as a people of White Earth have the power as enrolled members to step into a voting booth and vote yes or no. The power is in our hands. And that's the thing that we need to take a look at. We can sit here and reiterate how much we're against it. But we also at the same time need to acknowledge the fact that sell me on it. This is your idea. Author, you were part of the whole process. Sell me on the idea. If you're in support of it, at least attempt to convince me. Don't fall behind, let somebody else do this. Let somebody else talk. Sell me on your delegation. Sell me on your workshop. Sell me on your constitutional reform. Sell me on it, because I am not being sold. Sell me on it. Show me your support, because I will throw myself in front of a bus for my people. I will write something and throw myself in front of a bus, and you are throwing your paper in front of the bus with somebody else. Stand up and back up what you are for. stand up.
Well, Gerald Visner has the opportunity to participate or not participate, as the case may be. He has decided, apparently, that he thinks others should have a voice in all this. No, that's all I'm saying. I mean, that's what he has decided.
Yeah.
Okay, we have some of those voices are right here, and we're going to get some brief comments, and then we'll sign off this entire show and get back so the KKWE can get back to its normal programming. Here we go.
I want to know why this is, my name is Darlene Hanks.
All right.
I want to know why this is presented as an entire product and not article by article. It should have been presented to us article by article and not just one huge package.
Okay. That's a very legitimate question in some circles. Voting on each article separately gives people an opportunity to vote up or down. I don't know what happens when they vote it down, but that does, and it is a nightmare in terms of logistics, no question about that. But is that a possibility?
Well, most constitutional efforts such as this is an entire document. And you may not agree with provisions of it. You may agree with some. We'll have to find out when the referendum is. And if it passes, it passes, and we move on. If it doesn't pass, we start over again.
Okay.
So can I tack onto that? Do we have another?
We have
new
one.
voice
We have one
over
more
here?
question
Okay.
here.
You know, Gitaganes Indigenous Magazine Dodem. You know, I see some good things. I see some things that terrify me in the Constitution. But what I think needs to be addressed is the process and how you inform people, how you educate people. And it cannot be done in a year's time. It cannot be done maybe even in a couple of years' time. So I think developing that process and getting the word out and directing it, using all the media that we have. And I know there has been an attempt to do that, but I don't think the time frame is long enough for people to make an informed choice. So.
Okay. Thank you. Any response to that?
I would like to say,
Sharon and Jody.
Judy, I agree with you also, and I've been really disappointed in the amount of people that show up for the sessions that they're having. Now, I understand that there were some over here that there were a lot of people, but they were employees and mandated to come. But even in the Twin Cities, which is our largest group, I guess, of off-reservation constituents in Minnesota, our people there, you know, we didn't have very many people show up, and they were advertised, and people talked about them. But what would you say, Terry? 15 maybe max?
Yeah,
tops,
average about
at
that.
both sessions?
Yeah.
2 days, 2 sessions each day. So, you know, and what Irma said earlier about this room should be packed. I would have thought we would have been in the big room. I mean, you know.
Yeah.
But what? There was no free dinner and casino coupons or what? You know, what's going on here?
Five people asked me for a ride here, and I turned them down. I had a car full. How come a transit system wasn't sent to each? Pine Point, Pine Bend, right straight? Hey, bring them here. What happened to me? Look at all those people here. They do that. Handful of people. State of the Union address, they do that.
Because, hold on.
Well, you know,
this event is hosted by KFAI.
We're the ones that,
KFAI did
not
this.
the reservation.
So, let's stop. I appreciate your passion. and
We
I
would
have
have
the same
loved to have
issue.
had the room filled. We are not as much in touch with the constituents here as everybody else. So we do sort of trust everybody else to bring the crowds. We're not in touch with that ourselves. Maggie did her best to bring some people. Let's this man first. Hold on, this man first, and then we'll get to Audrey Thayer in a second.
Kigewe na be Chicago and Dejna Kaj, Magizi and do them. Yeah, exactly. If we would have had some slot money offered, if we would have had transit rides here, this whole thing would have been filled up just like the State of the Union address. The people are really suppressed here on this reservation, big time, big time. Drugs are an epidemic that's widely ignored. There's only a selected few making decisions for all of us. Oh, the election process. Hey, if we had a box sitting up there with everybody in a big long line dropping a vote, I'll goddamn guarantee you that it'd be a hell of a lot different situation and outcome. Everybody knows that the damn voting process here has been jacked from day one. And you know that.
Okay, one more comment.
I have to just say, tonight, the panelists here are guests. This is not a tribal-sponsored event.
That's true, and we are going to get Audrey. Excuse us, please. Whoa. We only had an hour on KFAI. We're coming up on an hour for KKWE, extra hour, and I think we're going to have to close this off in a minute, but I want Audrey Thayer to give us a shot.
Well, first of all, thank you, panelists. I don't know if I would be sitting up there and having to take the heat or trying to move something through. Whether I agree with Irma or not isn't the situation here. She is my leadership because she won the election, whether I agreed or not. Okay? She's presenting something to us. I'm concerned. I'm not on the reservation, so I'm nobody. But yet my grandkids are fluent. They read, write, and speak Ojibwe. But they're not accepted here because we have an exclusion by our own people. We're victimizing each other in this room. We're victimizing each other, and we're not taking a handle on it individually. Michael, thank you. It's up to us to help each other out, okay? And yes, this wasn't a tribal meeting. It was a radio meeting, okay? I had people I asked people to come in from Bemidji. I had room for 5 people. No one wanted to come down, but they did want the documents to read. That was good. At least they're getting an idea. We've got to stop fighting each other and working. But I love this dialogue because we're not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing here. We're giving our opinions, and it's not personal. And I thank the leadership for at least introducing something here. It's given us a little bit of breath. Yes, we're poor. We're in the poorest county, Mahnomen, Clearwater, Beltrami. Our people are in the poorest counties. Oh, let's blame the council? No, let's blame each other. We have to pick it up somewhere, each of us. And it isn't easy. And every one of us in this room have a hard time feeding our families and dealing with stuff here. Every one of us has stuff. But let's pull together and let's give solutions. I only heard a few tonight. And we really need to have some, they have to have us tell them. And don't feel like we're not being listened if you don't get your idea presented. But we have to keep trying and work together. And, so this is very frustrating when we can start pointing fingers at each other. So I thank the panel, and I thank the KFAI, the Truth to Tell. At least we're getting it out there in media. Yes, it'd be nice to have had transit buses. It's something that was just not, well. Okay, so then we move on, we try it again. We start having a little bit more, there's still time till November to everybody talk about it. And I am disappointed to hear, Sharon, that we only had 15 in the cities. But that tells me people are focused on work, feeding their families, you know, and it is hard to get to these things. That's it.
Can I just?
Thank you, Audrey Thayer.
Yep.
One moment, please. So we're going to have to close it off now, I think.
Well, can we just remind people that for those who weren't able to make it, I mean, this will be available as a media package that you can share.
Oh, yes, please, yes.
With people who weren't here. So
This entire
so while they
conversation will
weren't
be
here
available.
to, like, while these people that you're talking about weren't here to participate, they can still hear everything that was said, not just the documents that were distributed.
Yeah, in Wisconsin, somebody just Facebook, they're listening in Wisconsin, Oregon,
Yeah, and this has all
Arizona.
been live.
Our people
so-
are listening. We are everywhere. So
Holy cow, that's
there's
even
people listening
fascinating
in
to
the
me.
village that didn't have a ride. There's people listening in Bemidji that didn't have a ride.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
This man has one more question, briefly. What is it?
Well, when you first opened, you asked, does the current Constitution meet our needs, or does the new one meet our needs? Well, the current Constitution could meet our needs if it was followed. It is not being followed. There's no pressure being put on it. Whatever, if the RBC is having a problem with the MCT doing something, they could go to the BIA, to the Secretary of Interior, and they could get things done the right way. This is not the right way. Right now, the current Constitution restricts the leadership, and that is why they don't want it. The new one lifts all those restrictions and puts a lot of power in the president, which, you know, yeah, which the president sits on the legislative council. She has veto power. I mean, come on, where's the separation of power?
All right, thank you very much. Okay, well, Maggie Rosso wanted to say something because she's with KKWE Niijii Radio. And Maggie, thank you very much.
Thank you, Maggie. Yeah, I just want to say thank you to each of you who came as opponents and proponents to our new proposed Constitution. We appreciate everything that you're doing and working on. And I also want to thank everybody who came to sit in the audience today. We do appreciate you, and KKWE is here. We're your station. We are community.
Yes, thank you very
And we thank you for your partnership.
I'd like to say thank you, Miigwech. You know, this is about choice and voice. It's
Well, ultimately, everybody will get a chance to vote aye
everyone gets
or
a
nay.
chance. It's choice and voice.
Ultimately, and what the argument really is about is whether this fits your needs or does not fit your needs. Does the present Constitution fit your needs or does it not fit your needs? And do they both fit your needs? And that Janice talked about too. He said, you're in a real dilemma if that's the case. All right. Thank you all so much for coming in and being with us tonight. We really appreciate your participation. I'm Andy Driscoll.
And I'm Michelle Ali-Marani.
And this has been KKWE at the end of our little, and we're very glad that Niijii Radio can be part of this. Good night, everybody. Do take care of each other.
Thank you.